lend a hand. You can sit around and wait for the phone to ring, the end of the line, waiting for someone to tell you everything at the end of the line. Sit around and wonder what tomorrow will bring, the end of the line, maybe a diamond ring. Well, it's alright, even if they say you're wrong. Well, it's alright, sometimes you gotta be strong. Well, it's alright, as long as you got somewhere to lay. Well, it's alright, every day is Judgment Day. Hey, how you doing? Justin back with you today to check out the end of the line by the Traveling Wilburys, one of the greatest super bands ever to have existed. Amazing song. I'm going to show you a few different elements to it. We're going to start off with like a super simple beginner version. There is a play along kind of guitar-karaoke thing on my Lessons and Songs app that's wonderful to play along with for beginners. You don't have to go full on with all of these fancy chords and different strumming patterns and stuff. You can keep it real simple and jam along with that. Works great. So definitely we're going to look at a beginner version first of all. Simple chords, simple strumming. Then we're going to get into a little bit of picking out the bass note for the strum, which is a kind of an interesting thing. And then I'll show you that cool little riff that they have at the start, which is not as hard as you'd think, but the last little bit of it is a little bit sticky, more a kind of intermediate level thing there, which you may enjoy having a bit of a play out, or maybe you won't. Let's have a look at it later on and see. But let's start off with, as usual, checking out the chords. There's only 3 chords you need for this song. First one will be a D chord. Hopefully most of you know that one. Second one will be an A chord. Now sometimes I tend to play A like that with a little mini bar, which is something we learn in grade 2 of my beginner's course. But if you're a real beginner, recommend sticking with the kind of standard A shape. And then a G chord. I tend to use this one here like a rock G for this song, but you could use like regular G if like that, or with your first finger if you've learned it that way. But that would probably be the recommended one, or that. If you're struggling with any of these chords, do go and check out the lessons on the website. I'm not going to go into all of the details about the chords, particularly the G chord. There's lots of different approaches to playing it, and if you're not familiar with all of those ones, you definitely want to check those lessons out either on the website or in the app so you can decide which is the best one for you. So let's get into the chord progressions. So the first chord progression is starting on a D. So we got D, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, D to A to G, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, D to A, 4, D, 2, 3, 4 again. D, 2, 4, D, then D, A, G, then D, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, D, A, D. The first step I recommend for beginners is getting the chord changes fast enough to be able to play either on beat 1 or when the chords change. So where there's 2 chords a bar, you'd play on beat 1 and beat 3. Slow it down a little bit if you need to. Sing along with yourself. If you're using my app, you can slow the tempo of the song down a little bit. You might find that a helpful thing to do. But what we're after here is the consistency of the beat. We don't want to be like pausing for the chord changes. So just starting on the D, so having it's all right, 2, 3, 4. If you lit around the breeze, well, it's all right, 2, 3, 4. A to A and the D, well, it's D again. It's D to A to G, well, it's D and again. D to A and to D. So if you can't do the simple strums along with the original recording or the backing track to start off with, you don't want to start thinking about any rhythm yet. Right, you really want to work on getting those chord changes. Remember, if you need to start the chord change a little bit earlier than you think you might need to, the key thing is getting it ready for the beat 1 or beat 3 when there's 2 chords in the bar, right? It's okay to start the change a little early to get to the chord, right? You want to be right on the money on beat 1 or beat 3. Okay, if you're a real beginner, then maybe you allow yourself a little bit of freedom there, because it does take a little bit of time to learn all this stuff, especially if you've just learned the G chord and you're struggling with that change. It's okay. Just give it, be gentle with yourself, be kind, allow yourself some time to get to grips with the any new skills, new chords that you learned. But That's the key thing, is trying to look for the beat. That should be the aim there before you even start thinking about adding any fancy rhythm parts. Okay, let's have a look at the second chord progression in it as well, and then we'll go through and start fancying up the strumming somewhat. So the second chord progression, it starts actually with a bar of D. There's like a little a bridging bar, I'll call it. It just stays on the D for that one bar. Give Tom time to get up to the microphone, I guess. And then we go to a G chord, so G, 2, 3, 4. Turn around and wait for the D to ring. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, G. Waiting for some G to tell you D chord there for 2 bars. So just 2 bars of G and 2 bars of D each time. G. Sit around and G chord what the D will bring to the D. And then it's going to A, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, and it's all right. And then we're back into the other section. So that one is just this interim bar of D for 1 bar, then G, G, D, D, G, G, D, D, G, G, D, D, and A at the end of that sequence. So let me play through now with the super simple strumming, that the 2 sections there, so you can see how it's all fitting together. So, well, it's D, right, D to A to G, well, it's D, right, D to A and to D, well, it's D, right, D to A and to G, well, it's D, right, D to A and to D, and then there's that extra bar of D, and now to the G. You consider G and wait for the D to ring at the D of the line. G, waiting for some G to tell you D the thing at the D at the line. G, sit around and G what the D will bring at the D, maybe an A chord ring. Well, it's all right, driving around in the breeze. Well, it's all right. Now you can hear as soon as I do this kind of boom chicka strumming, it's like, oh yeah, feels a little bit different to that straight, the straight beginner thing. But there might be a kind of a bridging pattern there for beginners to go through and just try even like down, down, up, down sort of strumming. So down, down, up, down, down. But it's all right. Riding around in the breeze, well, it's all right. Live your little life you please. In fact, there's a very valuable lesson to be learned in this song if you want to have a go at Old Faithful. And Old Faithful, down, down, up, down is 1, 2, and 4. You don't play on beat 3, but this has 2 chords in the bar where it's got the D to A and little sections in that verse. So if you've got that, you have to change your strumming pattern from down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down to get through that bit. So down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down. So you have to change your pattern there, which is important that you realize that the strumming patterns aren't like necessarily set in stone. Sometimes the rhythmic requirement of the song is going to mean you need to change your strumming pattern. So that'll be a good thing to check out. Now, to get a little bit more authentic takes a little bit more practice, because actually what we're doing is we're aiming for a bass note of the chord and then a down up. The bass coming on beats 1 and 3 and then a down up in between. So just on a D chord, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. So I'm having to target that one string, the 4th string, with a down up after it. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and well, it's all right. Riding around in the breeze. Well, it's all right. If you let a life you please. Now, that's not the whole truth, right? That's what you should start off with, is just getting used to playing the bass note and then a down up. The thing that makes it sound really nice is alternating the bass note between D, A. So 4th string, 5th string, and it's all right. Now, I have plenty of lessons on this, and I think it's in grade 2 on the site. But it's literally, you need to practice this bass, down, up, bass, down, up, bass. I'm usually alright at it. When I'm teaching, try and think of all of the other stuff. Sometimes my pick hand goes a little bit AWOL, but that's what you want to be searching for, is bass, down, up, 5th string, down, up. If you want to get really fancy, when I'm moving to the A bass note, I'm moving my first finger up a little bit to mute the 4th string. Now that's way advanced stuff. That's not for beginners. So if you're new to guitar and you've just learned your D, A, and G chords and you're looking for a tune, don't start trying to do that stuff. It'll just confuse the life out of you. But more advanced guitar players, if you happen to be watching this and you want that, the fancy bit at the end. Completely missed one. Well, it's all right. Living around in the fleas. Well, it's all right. If you live the life you please, well, it's all right. Doing the best you can, well, it's all right. Long as you lend a hand. And sometimes I'm doing down, down, up, up, down, 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 up. So I am changing it occasionally. It's like adding a fill in. It doesn't have to be like relentless alternating bass like you might have in a lot of like very strict country styles. Although this has definitely got that kind of country flavor going on there. Especially I think on that last one. Even if you lend a hand. Even if you lend a hand. It's like the dominant line in it, which is very, very country kind of bass line picked out there on the guitar as well. So there's loads of stuff to explore in this song. Like I'm giving you the kind of the basic chords and the strummy part, but if you want to get into the many layers of this, there's some gorgeous guitar layering going on in this. It's one of those things very difficult to teach because the parts in isolation don't tend to make as much sense as they do in context, and that's usually for more advanced guitar players that should be using their ears to work that stuff out on their own. Anyway, I've digressed. When we go into the next section, the Tom Petty part, you can sit around and wait for the phone to ring. You can continue. Waiting for someone to tell you everything. And on the G, you can go G, D, which is the open 4th string, so 6th string, 4th string. And I'm it's all right. Such a great groove, this song, well, it's all right. Even if you sing along, I just keep hearing that line. I should have worked that out properly, but anyway, I didn't. So you can do that, but also if you want to have a bit of a change there, because usually if you have the same strumming for all the sections, it can get a little bit monotonous. So it might be something to have the all right, even when you lend a hand. There's the extra bar that may be going down. Phone to ring. Down, down, up, down. Waiting for someone to tell you everything. Around and wonder what tomorrow will bring. Maybe a diamond ring. And then it's back to the alternating bass. See how different it sounds, and it makes the sections clear. It'll stop it getting boring for the listener if it's got that change. It really makes a big difference. You'll hear it now. I'll go back to the other section. You can hear it coming again. It just works nice as well. 3, 4, 4, 4. I'm kind of feeling that more now. I've changed my mind. Just having 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 for the Tom Petty part. That might work, but again, you can explore these things on your own and see what's feeling good for you. Playing along with the original recording is definitely a great thing, particularly bands like the Traveling Wilburys, where the groove is so great. The pockets are huge, like the groove. And when playing along with those kind of tracks, you want to try and imagine that you're in the band. Another great little tip for you, any of you, even beginners can try this, is strumming along to the original recording but without playing any of the chords, right? Because that way you can really lock into the rhythm of it. And bands like that, the groove, the pocket, the feeling of it, it's not like this kind of computer mumbo jumbo beats that we have now. This is like the best groove drummers and bass players and guitar players of all time, and it's got this lovely lazy kind of feel, laid back groove going. So just going, right, well, it's all right, trying to get lost in that. But with the original recording on, trying to really feel like you're locked into the band. That's how I think we absorb those things. We call them time feels, as I get the technical term of it. The weather, exactly where the beat's falling. It's not mathematically perfect. That doesn't feel good. It's slightly moving and a little bit later than we feel, a little lazier and easier. So that's one of the key things in this style. Is learning to lay back and sit in the groove properly. And I really feel like this is the best way. It's something that I didn't discover for years and years and years, but when I did, it meant that a lot of the grooves that I've been playing that had always felt a bit stiff seemed to loosen up. I think that you can absorb the time feel when you take away all of that chord nonsense and just think about the groove. You want to make it feel good inside. You want to practice it along. So you're feeling it. It's like you're in the band and you kind of get lost in it a bit. You should almost forget that you're even practicing at home. You should be imagining like, I'm in the band. This is what it feels like to be. You want to really absorb yourself at that level is what I'm trying to get to. I don't want to go on too much about that sort of stuff, but I really feel like that's a key ingredient that a lot of people miss. So hence why I'm raving about it now. So I think that's for that song. Like you can go super easy as a beginner and just strum once on the beat, or when the chords change, get along with it. You could try using something like Old Faithful, and more advanced guitar players should try alternating the bass part there. I think that's a really good fun thing. And for the even more advanced players that want to have a little crack at the intro, I'll run that through with you now. Such a classic little line, this one. So this is a G chord over a D bass note. So this is a D, like that, same shape. First finger's now in the 7th fret. That's the root note there on the 2nd string. So bass note first, the open D. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Now this is G, A with a D bass. This is a D, the top part of this D chord. Okay, so G, D, bass, down, up, down, down, bass, down, up, down, down. Oh, lovely little line. This is G, A, which we looked at already, same shape up 2 frets, D, then this is an E minor over D, or you could think of it as an A9 over D, doesn't really matter which one, and then you're going up to a D, this is an octave of that one. So 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Little 2 bars of the strumming. It's alright. But of course, it's a little bit more up tempo than that. I really hope you enjoy playing this classic Traveling Wilburys songs. Like I said, it's a really good one for beginners, just to keep the strumming real simple, work on those chords and jam along with the backing track. If you haven't checked out my Lessons and Songs app, give it a look, because the playing along with these backing tracks, they sound just like the record. The vocals, even particularly on this song, are really, really spot on. So it feels really great to play along with. But I also got to say, playing along with the original recording as well is a very beneficial thing to be doing with a track like this. So the guitarioke one is good for you to work on your guitar part, but also playing along with the original one, it will help you absorb that time feel, particularly the muted strumming thing. Don't miss out on that idea. It's much bigger than you might first think it is. So I'd really encourage you to have a go at doing that. I really hope you're enjoying this little series. If you happen to be over on YouTube, always appreciate you hitting subscribe, hit the bell if you want to get notified when I'm doing live transcribing and that kind of stuff as well. Remember, website sign up is free and you get a dashboard, you get the practice assistant, you get loads of tools, tempo calculators, metronomes, all of that sort of stuff. Nearly all the lessons are free except for theory bits and a couple of other little parts, but the majority of stuff is still free over there. If you haven't been over in a while, go and check it out. There's so much stuff for you completely for free, lots to gain and not much to lose. So I'll see you for plenty more lessons very soon. You take care, have a great day, bye.